Hi, I'm Harpreet Oberoi, practicing advocate daily. I'm faculty for the course of sexual harassment at workplace. This module deals with introduction. Structure of module 1. This module deals with what amounts to sexual harassment, legal definition of sexual harassment, and we'll also consider some example which constitute sexual harassment, prevalence of sexual harassment in India, and 10 Indian case studies that constitute sexual harassment. And we shall also consider examples of behavior not constituting sexual harassment. And finally, we'll have some multiple choice questions. Sexual harassment in the workplace is a violation of women's human rights. Sexual harassment is an unwelcome verbal, visual, or physical conduct of a sexual nature that is severe or pervasive and affects working conditions or creates a hostile work environment. Sexual harassment of women in the workplace is a widespread problem exacerbating difficult economic conditions and damaging their ability to achieve equality with men. Sexual harassment causes incalculable economic, psychological, and physical harm to its victims and serves to reinforce the subordination of women to men in the workplace. Generally, sexual harassment is a sexually oriented conduct that may endanger the victim's job, negatively affect the victim's job performance, or undermine the victim's personal dignity. It may manifest itself physically or psychologically. Its milder and subtle forms may imply verbal, inappropriate, affectionate gestures or proposition for dates and sexual favors. However, it may also assume blatant and ugly forms like layering, physical grabbing, and sexual assault or sexual molestation. Section 2N of the Sexual Harassment of Women at Workplace Act defines sexual harassment as any one or more of unwelcome acts or behavior, namely physical contact and advances, or a demand or request for sexual favors, or making sexually colored remarks, or showing pornography, or any other unwelcome physical, verbal, or non-verbal conduct of sexual nature. Sexual harassment laws and policies adopted at the international and national level are not meant to inhibit normal socializing at work or relationships based on mutual consent. Rather, these laws are aimed at unwelcome conduct which serves as an obstacle to the equal participation of women in the workplace. Therefore, it is essential to determine as to what amounts to sexual harassment at workplace. However, it is difficult to define it. It encompasses a variety of behaviors which are perceived differently by different people. The following acts are examples of behavior which may under certain circumstances be considered sexual harassment. Referring to an adult as a girl, doll, babe or honey, whistling at someone, making sexual comments about a person's body, turning work discussions to sexual topics, telling sexual jokes or stories, asking about sexual fantasies, preferences or history, asking personal questions about social or sexual life, making sexual comments about a person's clothing, anatomy or looks, repeatedly asking out a person who is not interested, telling lies or spreading rumors about a person's personal sex life, making kissing sounds, howling and smacking lips. Some of the non-verbal examples are looking at person up and down, staring at someone, blocking a person's path, following the person, giving personal gifts, displaying sexually suggestive visuals, making sexual gestures with hand or through body movements, making facial expressions such as winking, throwing kisses or licking lips. Some of the physical examples are touching the person's clothing, hair or body, hugging, kissing, patting or stroking, touching or rubbing oneself sexually around another person, standing close or brushing up against another person, neck or shoulder massage, actual or attempt to rape. These examples are not exhaustive. In the landmark case of Vishaka versus State of Rajasthan, Honorable Supreme Court defined sexual harassment at workplace as follows. Sexual harassment includes such unwelcome sexually determined behavior, whether directly or by implication, as physical contact and advances, a demand or request for sexual favors, sexually colored remarks, showing pornography, any other unwelcome physical, verbal, or non-verbal conduct of sexual nature. Where any of these acts is committed in circumstances where victim of such conduct has a reasonable apprehension that her objection would cause disadvantage to her in connection with her employment, including promotion, would amount to sexual harassment. Prevalence of sexual harassment in India. It is difficult to quantify the experience of sexual harassment in the workplace because there is no universal definition of what constitutes sexual harassment. Many victims of sexual harassment are reluctant to report their experiences. Low reporting rates are a result of fear of retaliation from employers, concern for the harasser, shame, belief in the futility of the complaint mechanism, or fear of being blamed for the harassment. A majority of people in India feel that sexual harassment occurs on a daily basis. A recent telecast survey of working women in India call centers has confirmed that 46% of the women face sexual and suggestive comments from their colleagues or seniors in one or the other form. According to one survey conducted on Indian college students and faculty members of one university, the majority of women, that is 61.7%, reported that they had experienced some form of sexual harassment in or coming to the college, whereas a minority felt that it was rare. According to men, as to whether they had witnessed it, about half of them said they had witnessed such incidents. An opinion poll on prevalence of sexual harassment at workplace was conducted by Oxfam India and Social and Rural Research Institute, for which women were interviewed in Delhi, Mumbai, Bangalore, Chennai, Kolkata, Ahmedabad, Lucknow and Durgapur. As per the results, 17% of working women in India claimed that they had experienced sexual harassment at workplace. According to the survey, most women claimed to have faced incidents that were non-physical. 66 of the 400 respondents reported to have faced a cumulative of 121 incidents of sexual harassment. 102 of 121 incidents reported to be non-physical, whereas the remaining 19 incidents were physical in nature. Let us consider some case studies and examples of sexual harassment shared by various people belonging to various streams. Journalist, aged 35 years. About a year ago, when I was working in a newspaper, I had to frequently interact with the editor-in-chief directly. I always thought that he considered me as a sincere worker. Gradually, the tenor of his interactions with me started changing. If I had a problem with any male colleague, he would attribute it to my ignoring his interest in me. He would also comment on my looks and attire. I was in denial. As a journalist who had often reported on and taken a stand against sexual harassment, it was difficult for me to believe that I was really being harassed. He did not want a meeting in the office and always insisted on meeting over lunch or coffee. I was reluctant to meet him. He started finding excuses to hold my hand and put his arm around me against my will. I was not sure whom I could talk to about this and what would be the reaction of others at work. After a few days of this harassment, I resigned. PR professional, Delhi, age 27 years. About 8 months ago, I went to an annual office party in Mumbai where a senior colleague struck up a conversation with me. He was 40 years. After the party, I was told that he would drop me to the hotel in his car as there was shortage of cars. I refused as I hardly knew him and he was drunk, but I was told he was a senior person and he won't be driving. On the way, he started hugging me and put my head on his shoulder. I refused and moved away. He again came close and tried to kiss me and slide his hand under my shirt and even tried to go down on me. I screamed and managed to get out of the car and reach the hotel. I told my colleagues about the incident. We did not have a sexual harassment cell at the workplace. After I reached Delhi, I hoped for some action. I complained to my company. After 2 weeks of follow up, he was called to the Delhi office. He denied the incident and said that I was making it all up. After 4 months, he was thrown out of the job, but because of poor performance and not because of my charges of sexual harassment against him. HR professional Delhi, age 27 years. This happened 4 years ago when I was working in an NGO. Due to my work profile, I had to interact with the head of the organization more frequently than some of my other colleagues. I shared a comfortable relationship. On one of my birthdays, while traveling, he came to my hotel room with a cake and champagne. We spoke for a while. Then he approached me and tried to hug me. I pushed him away. He made a forceful attempt to hug me. I again pushed him away, asking him what had got into him. He sat for a while and then left. After we returned to Delhi, he tried to put it behind me. However, the situation worsened when I started dating a colleague. He would follow us to see where we were going. Things became very uncomfortable and I was forced to leave the organization. I wanted to lodge some of the complaints, but he was so senior. Also, often it is the girl's reputation that gets tarnished in such cases. Journalist, 24 years. After completing our post graduation in journalism, I and my classmate applied for internship with the leading English daily in Kolkata. One day the paper's associate editor called me. He said he had seen our Facebook profile and would like to have us on board. On first day of our internship, the person asked me why I appeared sleepy and if I was not happy to work with the organization. On other occasions, he would comment on my appearance. His remarks included, "You have such beautiful eyes. Why don't you put some kajal? Why don't you dress up properly and make efforts to look better?" I was expecting that your appearance, behavior, and personality would have been different from that of others, but you turned out to be an introvert. Later, I discovered that this was his usual behavior with almost every intern. However, he used to behave differently with the company employees. Occupation, IT profession, age 26 years. It happened when I was an intern in an IT firm in Delhi. It was past midnight. The team I was part of had to attend a video conference with an US based client. Once it got over, my team had offered to drop me home. I agreed as I had no reason to be wary about his advances. In the car, he tried to brush his hand against my legs on the pretext of changing gears. He asked me if I was staying alone in the city, whether I had a boyfriend or not, when we reached home, he asked me for a good night kiss. I was shocked. He grabbed me and kissed me. The moment I could free myself, I asked him to open the car door, which he did. I ran towards my house. On resuming office, I asked him why he had forcibly kissed me and said I could report the incident to the HR. His response was, "You never said no, go ahead, report it. I'll tell them you were an equal party to it and that's why you agreed to come with me." He also said whatever happens with between the two adults outside the office premises is something that have to be handled themselves. I left my fight there and never went to complete my internship. Priya Professional Bangalore, Seema. Seema alleged manager's sexual behavior. She was working in a club over a period of several years. The allegations included touching, leering, comments of a sexual nature that were made about her body. She stated she had complained to management several times and that the complaints were ignored. She also alleged that as a woman she had been denied promotion offered to less experienced males at the club. As a result, she resigned. The manager and the employer denied these allegations, stating her attitude at work had deteriorated during her employment. The matter was ultimately resolved by conciliation with the employer and the manager paying some hefty amount as compensation. The respondent also provided written apologies for an offense the complainant may have experienced. Lecturer, Pune, 32 years. A woman lodged a complaint with the commission alleging sexual harassment by her boss, who was also her academic mentor. The woman alleged that the sexual harassment occurred over a period of 2 years. The alleged harasser was in a position of authority over her in that sense that she was a student and he was her guide. She claimed towards the end of the sexual harassment he stalked her by following her and waiting outside her house. The respondent denied the allegation, stating that the relationship was mutual and there was no sexual harassment involved. In the conciliation, the matter was finally settlement for the amount unknown, and respondent also provided a written apology. Occupation IT profession Chennai. A supervisor made several unsolicited sexually suggestive advances towards Julie in the workplace. Despite Julie repeatedly asking him to stop, the advances continued. Julie reported the matter to her manager. In recent months, her manager had heard of similar complaints from other female staff about the said supervisor, but this was the first formal complaint. Unsure of what action to take, the manager sent the supervisor a copy of organization sexual harassment policy and asked him in an email to read the policy document and not to act in a manner that could contravene the policy, but took no further action. Let us consider some examples of behavior not amounting to sexual harassment. Consensual dating, joking, and touching. Only unwelcome conduct can be sexual harassment. For example, you may decide it is okay if you date your boss and he or she touches you at work. If the relationship ends and you may no longer feel it is okay for this behavior to continue, and if the other person still persists, then you are being sexually harassed. Casual comments like you look nice today. The boss says to his assistant, you look nice today, that's a great outfit. There he has not acted unreasonably by complimenting his assistant. So long the boss does not go extreme and makes the employee uncomfortable by his compliments, it should be okay. But an occasional compliment is permissible and maybe even welcomed by his assistant. Open criticism. For example, if a male supervisor yells at his subordinate in front of other people in the office for poor performance and the female employee gets embarrassed, that may not amount to harassment. Crude language. Swearing in the workplace is not harassment. Asked to work late in exchange for dinner. Suppose a male supervisor asks a female employee to work late and he tells her that he would buy her dinner for her trouble. That will not amount to sexual harassment. So long he has not requested sexual favors and conditioned the terms of employment or employment opportunities on sexual favors. He simply offered to feed her as a thank you for her hard work. When deciding whether behavior amounts to sexual harassment or not, one has to take into account all the surrounding circumstances. Mere discourtesy, rudeness, or lack of sensitivity need not amount to harassment. Behavior has to be sufficiently severe or pervasive so as to alter the conditions of employment and create an abusive working environment. Generally, one has to see a pattern of offensive conduct. However, single severe incident of harassment can be violation of law, particularly when harassment is physical or quid pro quo.
This brings us to the end of the module. Thank you for your attention. Feel free to play this video as many times as you wish. You may also wish to download the same. Just to remind students again, you get complete free and downloadable course material and IALM copyrighted ebook upon finishing of your course and submission of your assignment. You may click on Move to Next Unit at the bottom of this page. This will take you to multiple choice questions. The MCQs will be directly or indirectly related to the information contained in the present module. If you still have any questions or clarifications, feel free to write to us at registrar@ialm.academy. If it's a weekday, we will respond to you on the same day itself. As always, IALM wishes you good luck for your very bright professional career ahead. Thank you.